Hey everyone, welcome back to Evony with Genghis. So yesterday's video, joining PvP rallies, I wanted to do a part two to it where I talked about March presets and March buffs. So this is a very, very common error or mistake, and it just happens from laziness. And it happens to me also. And it's another thing where you're not prepared. So here's a guy on my team. Steel, not picking on him for any particular reason, but he doesn't have layers. But he has everything else good up top. And if I go into another attack here, another rally, so here's another one. And if I look, and we got player Hulago, this is Farouk, one of the world's top Pakistani players. But look, no layers under T8. So he has no T1 to 7. So I know what's going on here. And I wanted to tell them what's going on. So I sent them a message. And what's happening is they didn't put on the proper March buff, or they didn't put on the proper horn for Battlefield. And this happens to me too sometimes. Sometimes just laziness. Just I accidentally have my presets saved under a buff. So that means I saved them with a buff on. And then if I go to attack and the buff's not on, it cuts off the layers. It keeps your top troops. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by here. I'll just got to find a city and I'll declare an attack. And if we look here, so I'm going to my archers and let's go down. Oh, you know what? I fixed mine. No, I didn't. There I am. So they're off. So I did actually fix them without the March buff, but I didn't fix them without the proper horn. So let's put that on and let's see if that makes a difference. So let's go all the way down, and it made a bit of one. It didn't quite get all the way down. Now, if I go to my ground, it was saved properly, and my horse also saved properly. So let's take a look at why that is. So basically, what happens is you don't save. So you go into presets, and let's pretend I have a March buff on right now, and I max out my troops. And then the March buff expires after 1 hour. I no longer, it'll just cut off the bottom layers, right? And the same thing with the horn. So you have to make sure that you change the horn also. So I made a video yesterday, and I did that because the way to correct this is at the end of Battlefield, go in and redo your presets and drop them down to a level below what your regular March is. So for me, if I go here, my regular March is 3.2, 3.16. So I have to set my presets under that. And the way I do it is I just drop off the biggest troop. So I'm going to show you in the video, but I'll show you right now. So for me, ground is my biggest troop. So I slide that down, T15 ground, the highest tier is what I mean. So my highest tier for archers, I still send a highest level of 12s. So if I was to adjust this, say I put a March buff on, it's super easy. I go in, I just slide it over for a quick attack rather than going in and resaving the preset and then attacking. But if I'm going into Battlefield, I'm going to be doing multiple attacks. You can't be doing that quickly. So I will resave the preset with the March buff, and then at the end of Battlefield, I'll fix it. I know some people will say, well, what if you have no troops left and you can't fix it? Yeah, that's a problem for some people, so you have to find a time to fix it. Either you burn a March buff to do it, or you just go without preset saved properly until the next Battlefield where you can fix it. Or on Saturday, you should be using a March buff for World Boss anyways, so reset it during then. So let's go to the video. And just a reminder, May 16th, promo code Genghis, 35% off. Okay, so if you're going to be doing any purchases in-game, do it on that day using Apptoide. The information of how to do it is in the description to the video. Let's get to the video I shot yesterday of me doing presets. So you can see I have 46 minutes left on a preset, and I did use a 200%. But if you use 100%, use the 100. If you use the 50, use the 50. But you should be using a March buff. I recommend not using March buffs to kill monsters unless you have a lot. Like I have a lot, but I don't need them. But if I did, I could use some. But it's better off not to. And here's another tip. One of these right here has a March size capacity. I do not save my March buff with that on, because if it expires, you're screwed for 24 hours. You can't readjust it because you can't put this March buff on again for 20%. So I basically play most of my battlefields without that 20% March buff. And it doesn't make too much of a difference. If it's All-Stars or Shalon, something big, team-oriented, I will put them all on. So here you can see T12 Archers is my largest number of troops. I slide it down below the 3.1. Right now it's at 4.6. Now ground, I'm going to slide that down below 3 million just to be safe. And then when I go do an attack, Horse, T15 is my largest tier. So I'm going to slide that down below the threshold. And now these next two are sieges. This is easy because it's just pure T11 maximum or T13 maximum. I'm going to slide that down under 3 million, save. And then if I have an attack in SVS, I put on the March buff and I just slide over that one tier troop. That's the trick I use to quickly add a March buff. Rather than I have to add the March buff, I have to go look, make sure everything's correct. And then I also have the option of sending without a March buff. That's the key to this, right? I could send without a March buff and still have my layers. So here's a target that I found, and I'm just going to show you no March buff now. I can attack with something with my full layers, and they're all there. And then I just slide over to fill that March buff because the March buff is still active, but I saved it at a lower threshold than the March buff. And I could do the same thing if I wanted to do with Horse or with ground. You just slide over that largest tier. So I hope this little tip does help you, because I know myself, sometimes I accidentally don't follow my own advice. And just because I don't want to burn a March buff after Battlefield to fix it on Wednesday, and then that means SVS is coming, and I'm going to be fighting without proper layers for the first day. Unless I see a real juicy target, then I'll put on a buff. But if I see something quick, like a 600 mil, and I just want to hit it, I'm going to be sending without my layers, and that's not ideal. So anyways, let me know what strategies you have to quickly adjust your March buffs. I'd love to know if there's another way. One thing I really wish there was I wish you could click attack on a target. So if I could find one here, Evony developers, if you ever do listen to my videos, which I really don't think you do, if I could do this, and if there was a button here to press that just said March buff, or if you could save two different types of presets with March buff and without, but I guess we asked for too much, and we got our eight different presets. 5, 6, 7 for some people. I don't think Evony is going to be adjusting this part of the game anytime soon. Like, subscribe, leave a comment.